Assalamu alaikum dear students. Welcome to Dr. Roomi lectures. In the chapter Introduction to Endocrinology, we studied that there are two types of hormones, water-soluble hormones and lipid-soluble hormones. Both of these hormones are different from each other in different ways. One of the way in which water-soluble hormones are different from lipid-soluble hormones is their mechanism of action. Lipid-soluble hormones, also called as lipophilic hormones like thyroid hormones, T3, T4 hormones, steroid hormones like estrogen, progesterone, cortisol, aldosterone, and also vitamin D are easily soluble in the cell membrane, so they can cross the cell membrane. So that's why they don't find their receptors in the cell membrane. Water soluble hormones, because they cannot cross the cell membrane, that's why they find their receptors in the cell membrane. But here water soluble hormones, they find the receptors within the cell. When these lipid soluble hormones enter into the cell, it will find its receptor either in the cytoplasm or in the nucleus. When this hormone binds with its receptor, it makes hormone receptor complex, which can be translocated through the nuclear pores in the nuclear envelope into the nucleus. Steroid hormones have their receptors present in the cytoplasm. So their hormone receptor complex is formed in the cytoplasm. But for T3 and T4 hormones, their receptor is located within the nucleus. So their hormone receptor complex is formed within the nucleus. Once this hormone receptor complex is formed, that binds to hormone response element on specific genes. Genes contain DNA. So this hormone response element can be called as glucocorticoid response element in case of aldosterone hormone, can be called as glucocorticoid response element in case of cortisol hormone. These hormone receptor complexes act as transcription factors, and by acting on the hormone response element on the genes within chromosomes, they affect the transcription of different genes. The transcription of some genes is increased and transcription of some other genes is decreased. Increase in the transcription of DNA to make messenger RNA is called as induction, and decrease in the transcription of DNA to make less messenger RNA is called as repression. So by the action of these lipophilic hormones, for example steroid hormones, some genes will be induced and some will be repressed. As a result of transcription, messenger RNA is formed. This messenger RNA diffuses into the cytoplasm and it will be translated by the ribosomes. Ribosomes make new proteins. Many of the proteins are enzymes. Some proteins are transport proteins, some of them are structural proteins, and some proteins will be released from the cells as they are secretory proteins. So the increase or decrease in the synthesis of these new proteins affects the physiologic actions of the cells. For example, if you talk about aldosterone hormone, it is a steroid hormone which is released from the zona glomerulosa of adrenal gland. Aldosterone hormone, because a steroid hormone, it's lipophilic and easily can cross the cell membrane. It enters into the cytoplasm of the cells of distal convoluted tubule and the collecting ducts of the nephrons in kidney. Aldosterone binds to its receptor within the cytoplasm. This hormone receptor complex is translocated into the nucleus and then it binds to mineralocorticoid response element on its specific genes. The transcription of some of the genes is increased, which means that they increase the rate of formation of new messenger RNA. So some of the genes are induced. For example, the gene that increases the formation of new sodium channels is induced. Hence, there is more messenger RNA from those genes. There is more synthesis of sodium channels, and that increases the reabsorption of sodium. So this is one of the function of aldosterone hormone, that increases the reabsorption of sodium from the distal convoluted tubule and the collecting ducts of the nephrons of kidney. Aldosterone hormone also increases the secretion or loss of potassium ions and also hydrogen ions into the urine. The action of aldosterone hormone does not start within seconds or minutes. It takes about 45 minutes for the new proteins to be synthesized, and then the action of aldosterone hormone starts. The steroid hormones are slow to perform their action, and the full action of some of the steroid hormones cannot be achieved until there is a delay of several hours to days. This is different from the action of water-soluble hormones like epinephrine, like antidiuretic hormone, which start their action quickly within seconds to minutes. Why it is so that lipid-soluble hormones are slow to perform their action and water-soluble hormones they perform their action quickly? This is because the water-soluble hormones, they cannot cross the cell membrane and they find their receptors within the cell membrane. And water-soluble hormones, they produce some second messengers within the cytoplasm like cyclic AMP, cyclic GMP, and these second messengers they cause phosphorylation of various proteins within the cells. This phosphorylation, for example, caused by cyclic AMP, can activate some proteins and can inactivate some proteins. In this way, the proteins which are already present within the cytoplasm, they are either activated or they are inhibited. And the lipid soluble hormones, they are slow to perform their actions because they act on the nuclear machinery of the cell. And here they increase or decrease the transcription process of different genes which affect the synthesis of new proteins. And the synthesis is a slow process. So that's why lipid soluble hormones are slow to start their action and slow to reach to their full action. This is analogous to if you're hungry and you want to eat food. If food is already there in your fridge, you will take some food, microwave it, and within 1 or 2 minutes it will be ready to be eaten. But if you have to cook food, it will take more time. So the action of lipid soluble hormones is like you have to cook food. So synthesis takes more time. But if food is already there and you just have to microwave it, it's just like activation of those proteins which are already present, and this by the action of water soluble hormones can be a quick process. So this is why water soluble hormones are quick to perform their action, and lipid soluble hormones, because they affect the synthesis of new proteins, that's why they are slow to perform their action. So this is the mechanism of action of all lipophilic hormones like thyroid hormones, T3, T4 hormones, like steroid hormones, and also vitamin D. The only difference is that the receptors for thyroid hormones is located within the nucleus, receptors for steroid hormones is present within the cytoplasm, and different lipophilic hormones induce or repress different set of genes, and this is why each lipophilic hormone will affect the synthesis of different set of proteins and hence affecting different physiological actions. I hope you have understood how lipid soluble hormones perform their action and how they are different from water soluble hormones. Thank you for watching this video. See you next time with another video.